What's up, Go Nation? We're back with another video. Today we're going to be reacting to new Rockstar's ANDOR official trailer breakdown. Yeah, just watched the official trailer. That was epic, but now we need to watch the breakdown. We need to see the master, Eric Voss, break down this trailer, you know what I mean. So hey, let's go ahead and get started with it.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of the new trailer for Star Wars Andor, or Andor if you're still in Skarsgård. A prequel series to Rogue One coming September 21st on Disney+. First 3 episodes dropping all at once. This shit is filled with stunning cinematic imagery shot on location, they tell us, which I assume includes the full-size planet of Coruscant that Disney has on a backlot. I think this show is gonna rock! So let's break down this trailer frame by frame for some details you might have missed. Here we go.
I love this shot. Oh man, I love that shot.
Okay, the trailer opens with these hikers climbing through the real-life Scottish Highlands. Series creator Tony Gilroy confirmed to Empire Magazine that Andor is the first Star Wars Disney Plus series to not use that volume technology, says it was created and used for The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And while I loved what they were able to accomplish with that, you can totally feel the difference here. Like, we have seen these Scottish hills in a number of titles over the years, so we just have an innate understanding of how vast they are. So to compare this terrain with an Imperial Star Destroyer just more effectively shocks us with scale than we would be if we saw it looming over a fictional extraterrestrial landscape. I mean, take it from a guy who just last weekend hiked through the Redwood Forest, aka Endor. Earth's nature can be surreal and beautiful enough to evoke that classic Star Wars rush of escapism. I love the thud of a sonic boom announcing the arrival of the Imperials. And if you look closely, you can see 2 TIE fighters just over the ridge sneaking.
Oh man, I didn't see that.
While we're looking at that background, notice how the water level in the background is much higher than where the valley dips below them. So I assume this must be that location where we later see a dam. I'll go into why that dam might be there later on. But we gotta talk about the amazing sound design of this Star Destroyer as it looms over the woman. Its shadows release the sounds of a helicopter blade whirring. Yeah, helicopter sounds reminding us of military superpowers invasions like the US and Vietnam, which George Lucas has said inspired the original trilogy, especially Return of the Jedi. I also love how the immensity of this passing Star Destroyer freaking shakes the camera, just evoking that whole aesthetic of a war documentary. And choosing Scotland here as the hiding place of these bands of rebels might be intentional, as George Lucas did tend to cast actors with Polish-British accents as Imperial officers, which is later justified in-universe as the Imperial rank and file tending to come from the core worlds, where people were more educated and talk with a certain affect, whereas the rebels tended to come from all over. So we think of this Scottish terrain with British accented Imperials looming over them. I mean, just talk to any Scot about the long history of the British oppression of Scotland. I am not filled with enough whiskey or Shrek rage to do this history justice. Let's move on.
To steal from the Empire? You just walk in like you belong. They're so proud of themselves.
Okay, I am really digging the music here. It actually sounds like a child vocalizing syllables.
Really does, but I really do love the music.
The amazing Nicholas Britell, who does HBO's Succession, and he told Variety about creating a soundscape that he called Orchestral Plus with a mix of textures and sound worlds. Whatever this is, this kid's voice just fits so well over the shot of who I assume is young Cassian Andor, overlooking this vast terraced pit. Not terrorist, terraced. Looks like a mining quarry, or maybe the attempts to build a subterranean base. Now I counted, because that's just what I do. I counted 26 terraced layers on the far side, and then looking over on the near side, the right of the frame, each of those layers has like 3 to 6 smaller terraced steps to it. Meaning that whoever dug this dug several hundred layers deep. Like this went like 100 times. And it looks as though after they dug all of that, there were some cave-ins in various spots, maybe from bombing raids. So if this is young Cassian here, this probably would not have been an Imperial operation, but rather something dug by Separatists or by Republic forces during the Clone Wars and just left behind after this planet was ravaged. Because if you look at the trees in the foreground there, they look pretty burned up. Now this kid climbs into a shaft, reminding me at least of the early Force Awakens footage of Rey scavenging the wrecked Star Destroyer after the Battle of Jakku. Then we get an overhead shot showing the Imperial Senate of Coruscant, where if you look at that central floor, it has been redesigned with the six-pronged Imperial crest. So at this point in history, the Empire kept the Senate around, but really as kind of a phony government to maintain order until they could launch the Death Star and just completely do away with the Senate and then rely on the regional governors to keep them in line. But in this point in history, senators like Mon Mothma and Bail Organa would continue to serve in hopes of enacting some good, but secretly they're just playing both sides and really supporting rebel insurgencies. And we end this section on this Imperial officer played by Anton Lesser, aka Qyburn from Game of Thrones. It's just super unnerving how white and clean this room is as a contrast to the downright filth of the exteriors of this trailer. Let's move on.
So fat and satisfied. They can't imagine that someone like me would ever get inside their house.
Okay, here we get a close-up of young Cassian's shoes, where it looks like he has stuffed rags in there, maybe his socks so the shoes fit better. Actually, his puffy yellow top looks like it might be one of those workman's jackets that's worn by scrap workers in other parts of the trailer. So this kid might have just found all these clothes and then tied all the loose fabric around him so it just fits him better. I like how in this control room, the display is glitching. It actually has the same black background analog display style that we saw in the original A New Hope when they were going through the Death Star battle plans, or when we saw those Death Star battle plans when they were being uploaded and transferred in the final scenes of Rogue One. I just love how consistent all this is. And yeah, it looks like Cassian as an adult will spend some time either in disguise as an Imperial cadet, or maybe just as someone who actually served the Empire for a period of time, but maybe got flipped, had some kind of dual loyalty. I mean, the guy is a spy. And as we saw with Tala and Obi-Wan Kenobi, it seems like there are people all over the Empire in these kind of positions. Next clip.
Cassian Andor. The Empire is choking us so slowly. We're starting not to notice. What I'm asking is this. Wouldn't you rather give it all to something real?
Okay, Stellan Skarsgård plays Luthen Rael, a rebel but with an interesting double life that we'll get to later. Here he recruits Cassian saying, "The Empire is choking us so slowly we're starting not to notice." I love it, describing the way the Empire has warped these societies from the ground up, normalizing the authoritarian rule. It also reminds us of how Darth Vader choked Admiral Motti so slowly at first that Motti didn't even realize he was suffocating. And that is what the Empire does, folks. Whether it's entire subjugated societies or its own ranks, it's an equal opportunity choker. Denise Goff's character marches in flanked by Death Troopers. Remember, Death Troopers are the taller elite commandos who we saw with Krennic at the beginning of Rogue One. Closed captioning confirms that her character's name is Dedra Miro. Judging from her white uniform, she's probably part of the ISB. That's the Imperial Security Bureau, the SS-style division that we also saw in Rogue One. You don't mess around with these guys. Adria Arjona's character flees a local patrolman, and there's an Arbesh sign to her right that ends with YO, and then there's a pink one on the right side that's just too blurry to make out. I tried so hard for you all to figure out what it said, and I failed. I failed. I'm sorry, but it's probably something like Ewok burgers.
Ewok burgers. Oh my god.
Section of a ship collapses. Presumably this is part of the scene that we saw in early concept art of Republic era Venator class Star Destroyers being dismantled, but those parts reconstructed into the Imperial era Star Destroyers. Then Cassian walks through this scrapyard and we actually learned that this planet is called Ferrix.
I need all the heroes I can get.
For the greater good.
Call it what you will.
Let's call it war.
So Luthen lands on a new planet and cloaks himself. His speeder cuts across a checkerboard patchwork of different crops being farmed. The variety of terrain is just so interesting. Looks like we got dusty orange clay, then blue water, but also green swamp. And then we see our old friends, the Partisans. You remember them, Saw Gerrera's group from Rogue One who accompanied him on Jedha. Some familiar faces show up here. One of the Two Tubes brothers.
I gotta watch Rogue One, dude.
He keeps watch over this hidden base, and down below is a starfighter, an early X-Wing. So in Star Wars canonical history, X-Wings only now started to be rolled out. They came from the Incom Corporation's redesigns from their Clone Wars era starfighters like the Z-95. These X-Wings were originally intended for the Imperial Navy, but the Empire got cheap and then went with the CNR Fleet System's less expensive TIE fighter line, which allowed the Rebel Alliance then to adopt the X-Wing as their predominant starfighter. So yeah, this would definitely be one of the earlier X-Wings we've seen in the live-action Star Wars chronology. And if you look down at that lower level, you can barely make out Moroff. That's a white furred fella who's part of the Partisans in Rogue One. One. Inside, as the partisans raise their guns, the closest to us, I think that might be a younger Weetief QB, the Talpini, played by Warwick Davis in Rogue One. Be pretty cool if Warwick came back for this too. Then Forrest Whitaker returns as Saw Gerrera, leader of the partisans. Notice his hair is less gray than we see him in Rogue One, but here he bears that scar across his face that he had when we last saw him in Bad Batch. Saw says, "Let's call it war," because this guy's always been leading up the most extreme branch of the Rebel Alliance. His methods looked down on as too violent and terroristic for the likes of Mon Mothma. Let's move on.
There's fermenting out there, son. Pockets of fermenting.
You're in my net. Are you a fish? Or are you a thief?
Okay, 3 mobile tac pods descend to Ferrix, and we get a close-up of Kyle Solar's Inspector character named Cyril Karn, who in the previous teaser is seen reacting to a bounty holoprojection of Cassian Andor, telling us that he is going to be pursuing Cassian. Meanwhile, there's another guy in his unit, Sergeant Linus Mosk, who says, "There's fomenting out there, sir. Pockets of fomenting." And I already love the writing on this show. Pockets of fomenting? It's just such a specific way to describe an uprising, but in a dead serious tone. I'm gonna start using that, like, uh-oh, someone tweeted implying not every second of Iron Fist or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is MCU canon. Pockets of fomenting forming. Pockets of fomenting! As Mosk exits this tac pod, the Orabesh above the ramp reads, "Caution." I was able to make out that one. Then a Lambda-class shuttle lands on Ferrix, and Dedra Miro meets with other officers as they observe a holo display of their base. Miro says to Adria Arjona's character, who's captured, interrogating her, "You're in my net. Are you a fish or are you a thief?" Which is another interesting line, because neither option is really great for her. If she's a thief, she'll be turned over to the local law enforcement, but if she's a fish, it means she is a rebel insurgent that Miro was trying to catch in that net. On to the next clip.
You're slipping.
I'm not slipping. I've just been hiding for too long.
Interesting. So here we see Luthen's double life, or maybe part of his backstory. He puts on several golden rings and dresses and fancy robes as he welcomes Mon Mothma into this shop on Coruscant, a location with a trove of antiquities. Whoever his partner in crime is here, maybe his daughter, is named Clea, and she says he's slipping. So are they both playing parts? Are they embedded on Coruscant trying to get close to VIPs? And if so, is Luthen aware of Mon Mothma's true loyalties yet? Are both of these people putting up fronts trying to suss each other out? All we know is that Luthen has long hair here, but then in different parts of the series, he cuts his hair, and there's a scene where he's playing a pretty significant role, piloting a starfighter in a battle with TIE fighters. He shoots down a TIE bomber as he barrels towards this interesting looking Star Destroyer with an alternate design, including some dishes on the sides. According to Lucasfilm's Phil Szostak, this is designer Colin Cantwell's early 1974 proto Star Destroyer concept.
Wow.
Which also showed up in the Imperial recruitment hologram in Solo: A Star Wars Story. I love it when they work in the concept art like this. On to the next clip.
As long as everyone thinks I'm an irritation, there's a good chance they'll miss what I'm really doing.
What are you really doing?
Wow, so some intensely detailed aerial shots of Coruscant, and I love how here, as opposed to the prequels, much of the color and life seems to have been drained from the Coruscant cityscape. Now it is much more of a brutalist concrete fortress that runs on clockwork. Mon Mothma speaks in the Imperial Senate, and she tells a colleague, "As long as everyone thinks I'm an irritation, there's a good chance they'll miss out on what I'm really doing." Now our friend is a new character named Tay Kolma. Some thought he looked like former Chancellor Finis Valorum, but this is not Terrence Stamp. This is Ben Miles, whom you might know as Peter Townsend in early seasons of The Crown. So Mon Mothma during these years really gained a reputation as a kind of a pacifist. She spoke out on various human rights issues. The series will give us a sense of how the senator is really using irritating parliamentary tactics to look like a career politician, but really this is a smokescreen to mask her actual covert efforts. Now a few years into this, she's going to eventually speak out publicly condemning the Gorman massacre and resign from the Senate, which will lead to the Empire labeling her as a traitor, which is how she ends up with the crew of the Ghost and Rebels. But until then, may Mon Mothma's political games begin. There's a very quick shot of Fiona Shaw's character, Marva. She sheds a tear, and this shows new droid B2 Emo, or B2, or just B, who is also on display at Comic-Con, described as, quote, a very old and weary ground mech salvage assist unit that has been towing scrap for the Andor family for years. So he and Andor go way back. Now the character Clea also goes through a hair and wardrobe change, and she tells someone this is what revolution looks like. Interesting sentence structure there, because the first teaser ended with Marva saying that's what a reckoning sounds like. I assume next trailer it's gonna be this is what fomenting tastes like. On to the final clip.
music.
3 rebels run along that dam in a location that looks a lot like those Scottish Highlands that I talked about later. So maybe this is why the water level was higher in some parts of the hills than others. Maybe a rebel mission will be to blow this dam. Because remember, the first teaser showed water pooled in a lake where some Imperial machinery was being built in this lake and launched out of it. So maybe by draining this lake, they will stymie whatever that Imperial operation is. Then a shot of laborers in white uniforms running barefoot down a tunnel that might be a prison camp. Actually, it looks like Cassian is among them, probably helping them break out of it. This could be the dangerous mission on Aldhani that was mentioned at that Comic-Con display. I'm wondering if this could be the labor camp where engineers build KX series droids. This could be where Cassian meets and reprograms K2SO. Then there's this interesting looking figure performing a medical procedure with eyepieces smushed into his face that some are comparing to Maz Kanata, but this is a completely different race than Maz Kanata. Maz Kanata did not have 4 arms. Maz Kanata. And then this completely heavenly shot of a dropship outrunning a debris field over a cloud layer. Never has complete chaos looked more beautiful. I mean, maybe the ship is outrunning the debris of a shattered Star Destroyer that's now raining down on this planet. I don't know what's going on. It just looks awesome. And we end with one TIE fighter firing on another TIE fighter. I assume it's because Cassian stole it. Folks, this trailer freaking rules! And I cannot wait to dive into this show, into this era of Star Wars history, because I love Rogue One. I love it more and more every year. And I'm completely surprised by how good this show is looking. I mean, going into this year, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Andor, I was like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's gonna be what I feast on. And now, I can't wait for Andor. Yes, Andor. Hey, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EAVOS. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Shout out to my boy Eric Voss. That's gonna be it for this video. New Rockstars, y'all killed it. Eric Voss, you killed it. Yo, can't wait. Oh gosh, what's going on? I need some drink. Oh gosh, what's going on? Thank you, Samuel. I don't even know what that is. But yeah, nice video. Can't wait to the show. Andor's gonna be fire. Yeah, so hey, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe button, leave a comment or two. You already know what to do. Join GOAT Nation. We out.